Crippling Depression asked about making, do you have any info on how to make cutscenes with images and choices? How to change player models? Not saying change clothes, but the same idea. And world map. All right, I think a couple of those things I can answer. Let's start with some information on some basics on cutscenes. Okay, so let's take a look at this tutorial, same one we've been working with, and I put together a basic cutscene that you can take a look at. Okay, so first thing we want to do is travel to the right. And right, this guy right here triggers the most basic cutscene. Okay, I have images set up to use in sort of a visual novel style, but I'm not good at actually getting the images. So we have a cup saying, say what? And his friend Stapler says, I know, right? And they stand side by side, and they ask you to pick a side. Which side would you like to take? Well, I want to take the cup side. All right. And if I talk to him again, that cutscene has played out. Now if I go over here and talk to this guy, I only talk to those who picked Stapler. So the results of the cutscene now make a difference in gameplay. All right, so first let's take a look at what's actually happening here. We're using the show picture and erase picture function in RPG Maker XP to accomplish this. So here, let me pause this for a second. Yeah, here we go. So the first thing you want to bear in mind is in the native files of your project, not of RPG Maker, but of your actual project, you want to go to Graphics and then Pictures. And I've added the picture of the cup and the stapler, and now they're selectable in RPG Maker. Again, do not do this wherever the master runtime package is sourced, just in your project. Okay? So now, if I were to go to tab number 2, show picture, right? I can choose which picture I want to do. And again, by the way, the transparency you're seeing, it's not that it doesn't pick up transparency, it's just that the images I'm using as an example are that bad. Okay. You can label them picture number 1, 2, 3, whatever. You can pick the position, right? And we use that in conjunction with regular messages to do sort of a visual novel style thing. Now, after you've done show picture, you also, it's not going to go away on its own. You have to do erase picture when you're ready for it to change, or move, or what have you. So a really good cutscene would use that in conjunction with the set move route command. Okay, so up until this point we've just talked about sort of visual novel style thing. The set move route command, if you look up here, it's going to list all of the events that are in your map. Remember in a previous tutorial I mentioned you want to name all of your events. This is why, because I can interrupt that visual novel sort of thing, and I can give any one of these individual events specific commands. Let's see. So we'll have them move down, move down. We'll have them have a thoughtful pause of 4 frames, and then turn to the right. Boom. There you go. See that? And we'll get rid of that. Any halfway decent cutscene, you know, once your event coding gets to a certain point, it should be a red flag for you that, hey, I don't want this to happen twice. So there's a couple ways to do it. Remember the basics of switches, control switches, and also self switches. In this case, I just used a self switch. Take a look here. Self switch A, right? You have chosen a side. So once he asks you what you want, right, it's going to change the switch for whichever you picked. And then at the very end, it activates the self switch. One more thing about switches. Take a look at this NPC over here. Which side are you on? Now, when you have multiple tabs, RPG Maker is going to try and use the highest number first. Okay, so the way I set this up, the one with no conditions, you want to be low, have number 1. And then if you picked a cup, he says something like that. If you picked the stapler, he says something like that. The reason I'm drawing attention to this is because if I were to add a new page, page 4, right? And let's just say, I decided to make this a little different. We'll choose a completely different graphic. Hi. Now, this has no conditions. So regardless of all this other code that I put in here, this is what's going to show up in game. So you have to be very careful. In practice, more commonly you'll see the same setup, but the tabs will be ordered differently. The base one will be at the end, and that will cause problems. So keep an eye on that. Those are some basics about how to do cutscenes. I hope that helped.